The stars had never seemed so threatening before. Admiral Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of Earth's primary orbital command station, staring at the readings that made no sense. 300 warships had just appeared at the edge of the solar system. They were massive, alien, and they were coming straight toward Earth. It had started 2 weeks ago with what humanity thought was first contact. A single ship appeared near Mars, sleek and beautiful in a way that human vessels could never match. The world celebrated. Every news channel showed the silver craft. Finally, humanity was not alone in the universe. Then the message came. It was translated by the alien ship's own systems, projected directly into every screen on Earth. The words were simple and cold. The Valdran Empire had found Earth. Humanity had 7 days to surrender all military assets and submit to imperial rule. Resistance would result in complete extermination. The message ended with images of other worlds, burning and lifeless, examples of what happened to species that refused. The governments of Earth had scrambled. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Others wanted to fight. Most just wanted more time. The diplomatic response had been carefully crafted to sound humble and willing to negotiate while humanity's military forces prepared for the worst. The worst had arrived right on schedule. "Sir, they're moving into attack formation," Commander Sarah Chen reported from her station. She was young for her position, only 32, but she had a sharp mind and steady nerves. "Our defense platforms are online and ready," Webb nodded slowly. Earth had 60 orbital defense platforms, each one armed with nuclear missiles and railguns. They had seemed impressive when they were built. Now facing 300 alien warships, they seemed like toys. "Send the evacuation order to Luna Base," Webb said quietly. "Get everyone off the moon who can be moved." "Sir, that will take hours." "We don't have—" "I know. Do it anyway." The Valdran fleet slowed as it entered the outer solar system. Their formation was precise, mathematical, perfect. They had done this before, probably thousands of times. This was routine for them. On the Valdran flagship, Admiral Keshitar reviewed the scans of Earth's defenses with amusement. The planet had primitive orbital weapons and a handful of small warships. Nothing that could threaten even one of his vessels. The whole operation would be over in less than an hour. "Shall we offer them one final chance to surrender?" his second officer asked. Keshitar made a dismissive gesture. "No, the Emperor wants an example made. These humans stalled and wasted our time. They will learn what that costs." The Valdran Armada opened fire first. Beams of concentrated energy lanced across the darkness, striking Earth's defense platforms. The first 3 exploded instantly, torn apart by weapons far beyond human technology. The next 5 lasted only seconds longer. Webb watched the displays as his defenses died one by one. All platforms return fire. All Earth vessels engage at will. Humanity's response was fierce but futile. Nuclear missiles streaked toward the alien fleet, only to be intercepted by point defense systems that never seemed to miss. Railgun projectiles bounced off energy shields that flickered but never failed. Earth's small fleet of military ships, 12 vessels that had been built for patrol and asteroid mining, charged forward in a desperate attack. They lasted 4 minutes. Commander Chen's hands moved across her controls, trying to coordinate defenses that no longer existed. Luna Base is under direct assault. They're targeting the civilian evacuation ships. Webb felt something cold settle in his chest. "Get me a channel to the Valdran flagship." "Sir, they're not responding to any—" "Is he do it anyway? Broadcast on all frequencies." The channel opened and Webb spoke clearly. "Valdran forces, this is Admiral Marcus Webb of Earth Defense Command. We are attempting to evacuate civilians from Luna Base. They are unarmed. They pose no threat. Please allow them to—" The transmission cut off as Luna Base exploded. 2 million people died in an instant, vaporized by a weapon that turned the entire installation into plasma. The bridge went silent. Chen's voice was barely a whisper. "Sir, they're moving into bombardment positions around Earth. They're going to fire on the surface." This was it. This was the end. Humanity had reached for the stars and found only death waiting. Webb looked at the blue and green planet below, thinking of his wife in Tokyo, his daughter in New York, the 7 billion people who were about to die because they had the misfortune of being discovered by an empire that saw them as nothing more than insects. "Sir," Chen's voice suddenly sharp with something that might have been hope. "Sir, new contact." Single ship, massive displacement. It just appeared at the edge of the system. Webb turned to the display. The readings made no sense. The ship was huge, larger than anything humans had built, larger than anything the Valdren had brought. And it was accelerating toward them impossibly fast. A transmission came through, audio only, calm and professional. "This is UNSC Perseverance responding to distress call. All civilian vessels, clear the combat zone. Valdren forces, you have entered human space and committed acts of war. You have one chance to withdraw." Keshatar stared at his own sensors in confusion. Where had this ship come from? The humans had shown no capability for anything like this. It had to be a trick, some kind of desperate bluff. "Ignore it," he ordered. "Continue bombardment preparations. Weapons target that ship if it comes into range." The massive vessel didn't slow. It didn't dodge. It came straight at the Valdren Armada like a hammer falling from heaven. As it entered weapon range, its hull lit up with points of light. And the Valdren Empire learned what it meant to make humanity desperate. The UNSC Perseverance was 3 kilometers of angular destruction. Its hull was dark gray, covered in sensor arrays and weapon ports. It didn't look graceful like the Valdren ships. It looked brutal, efficient, designed for one purpose only. Admiral Keshatar watched it approach and felt the first stirring of concern. His tactical officer was frantically running scans, trying to understand what they were facing. "Sir, the mass readings are inconsistent with any known ship design. Armor thickness appears to be... That can't be right. It's reading as solid composite plates over 2 meters thick." 2 meters? Keshatar repeated. "That's impossible. No ship could move with that much armor." "It's moving, sir, and it's still accelerating." On Earth's orbital command station, Admiral Webb stared at the same impossible readings. Commander Chen had pulled up every file she could find on UNSC vessels. There was nothing. No record of any ship called Perseverance. No record of anything remotely that large in human space forces. "Where did it come from?" Webb asked. Chen shook her head. "I don't know, sir, but there are old stories. Rumors from the Silent Century." The Silent Century. That's what historians called the period between 2087 and 2187, when Earth's governments had gone strangely quiet about space exploration. No major announcements, no public missions beyond Mars, just steady resource shipments to somewhere in the outer solar system. Then suddenly it had all stopped and normal space development resumed. Official records said it was a period of economic consolidation. Some people whispered about secret projects. Most dismissed it as conspiracy theory. Webb looked at the massive warship on his screens. Not such a conspiracy after all. The truth was buried in classified files that only a handful of people had ever seen. In 2083, a mining expedition to Europa had found something under the ice. Ruins. Ancient alien ruins from a civilization that had died out millions of years ago. Among the ruins were warning markers, messages that had survived eons. The messages spoke of the dangers in the galaxy, of empires that conquered and destroyed, of species that had been wiped out because they were unprepared when first contact came. The aliens who left the warnings had died defending their worlds. They left behind their knowledge as a gift to whoever found it, hoping the next species would survive where they had failed. Earth's governments had taken the warning seriously. Every major nation had contributed to a single project, kept secret from the public to avoid panic. They would build a weapon, one ultimate warship that could defend humanity if the worst happened. They would prepare in silence, then hide their weapon and pray it was never needed. The Perseverance had been built in the shadow of Neptune, assembled over decades by crews who never spoke of their work. The best technology humanity could develop had gone into it. Experimental reactors that bordered on antimatter generation. Railguns that could fire projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. Missile systems loaded with warheads that made nuclear weapons look primitive. Armor designed to withstand impacts that would vaporize normal ships, and it had waited. For 200 years it had orbited in the outer darkness, its systems maintained by automated drones and a skeleton crew in rotating shifts, waiting for a distress signal that everyone hoped would never come. The signal had come. Captain Sarah Chen commanded the Perseverance. She was not related to the Commander Chen on the orbital station, just a coincidence of names. She had trained for this moment her entire life, as had her parents before her. The captains of the Perseverance were chosen young and prepared for decades just in case. She sat in the command chair, watching the Valdren fleet grow larger on the displays. 200 crew members worked at their stations around her, calm and professional. They had drilled for this. They were ready. Weapons status report. All railgun batteries charged and ready, Captain. Antimatter torpedoes loaded. Point defense grid is online. We are at full combat readiness. Good. Helm, take us through their formation. Don't slow down. I want them to see what we can do. The Valdren fleet opened fire first. Dozens of energy beams converged on the Perseverance, enough firepower to destroy a city. The beams struck the armor and scattered, dissipated by layers of ablative plating and reflective coating. A few scored black marks on the hull. Most did nothing at all. Keshatar stared in disbelief. Concentrate fire. All vessels, target their engines, the Perseverance answered. Its forward railguns fired in sequence, magnetic coils accelerating tungsten projectiles to velocities that made them relativistic weapons. The projectiles crossed the distance in seconds. When they hit with the force of small nuclear weapons. The first Valdren cruiser simply came apart, torn into pieces by the kinetic impact. The second lost its entire forward section. The third managed to angle its shields, but the deflected projectile tumbled through the formation and destroyed 2 more ships by accident. 5 ships dead in the first exchange. Evasive pattern Delta. Captain Chen ordered calmly. Launch antimatter torpedoes full spread. Show them what real weapons look like. Dozens of missiles erupted from the Perseverance's launch tubes. They were smaller than the railgun projectiles but infinitely more deadly. Each one carried a tiny amount of antimatter, held in magnetic containment. When they struck, matter met antimatter and converted directly to energy. The explosions were miniature stars blooming in the darkness. Valdren shields collapsed under the assault. Hulls vaporized. Entire ships vanished in flashes of light so bright that sensors had to filter them. The Perseverance plowed through the Valdren formation like it wasn't there. Its point defense systems created a sphere of destruction around it, intercepting every incoming missile and energy beam. Nothing touched it. Nothing slowed it. Keshatar watched his fleet die and finally understood. These humans had been ready. They had prepared for this day. They had built a ship specifically designed to fight enemies more advanced than themselves, and they had made it so powerful that technological advantage didn't matter. All ships, withdraw, fall back to rally point. A railgun projectile struck his flagship's bridge. Keshatar died without finishing the order. 12 minutes after engaging, the first armada was gone. 300 ships reduced to debris and bodies floating in the void. Only 3 vessels had managed to activate their faster-than-light drives and escape. Captain Chen watched them go. Let them run. Let them tell their empire what happened here. On the orbital station, Webb and his crew watched in stunned silence as the Perseverance slowed to a stop, floating among the wreckage of the alien fleet. Its hull was scorched but intact. It had barely been scratched. A transmission came through. Captain Chen's face appeared, tired but satisfied. Earth Defense Command, this is Perseverance. The immediate threat has been neutralized. We are moving to defensive position. I suggest you begin recovery operations for survivors. Webb found his voice. Captain. Thank you. You saved us all. Chen smiled slightly. That's what we were built for, Admiral. But this isn't over. Those ships that escaped will report back. The Empire will send more. We need to be ready. She was right. Far across the galaxy in the throne world of the Valdren Empire, Emperor Valdris was receiving the impossible news. An entire armada destroyed by a single human ship. Impossible, unacceptable. He gave the order that would change everything. Mobilize the Grand Armada. 2,000 warships, the largest fleet ever assembled. They would burn Earth to ashes and scatter the remains. The war had only begun. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the war room deep inside the Perseverance, studying the holographic map of Valdren space. 3 weeks had passed since the battle at Earth. 3 weeks of planning, preparing, and making a decision that would determine humanity's fate. We can't just wait for them to come back, she said to her senior officers. They'll bring overwhelming numbers next time. If we fight at Earth, we might win, but the planet will be devastated. Millions will die. Commander Torres, her tactical officer, nodded. So we take the fight to them. Hit their supply lines, their forward bases. Make them chase us instead. Exactly. We have one advantage. They think in terms of territory and occupation. They fight wars of conquest. We just need to survive. That means we stay mobile, strike fast, and never let them pin us down. Lieutenant Park, the youngest officer in the room, looked uncertain. Captain, with respect, we're one ship. They have thousands. How long can we keep that up? Chen smiled grimly. As long as we have to. Besides, we're not just fighting. We're learning. Every battle teaches us more about how they think, how they fight. And we're showing them something they've never seen before. What's that? Park asked. That humans don't give up. The Perseverance left Earth orbit 3 days later. The plan was bold to the point of recklessness. They would use the intelligence gathered from the captured Valdrin database to identify key targets in the outer territories. Supply depots, communications relays, isolated patrol groups. They would hit them hard and fast, then disappear before reinforcements arrived. The first target was a supply station at the edge of Valdrin space. It was a massive structure, orbiting a dead world stocked with fuel and ammunition for frontier fleets. The Perseverance emerged from faster-than-light travel right on top of it. The station's defenders had barely enough time to raise shields before the railguns opened fire. The station shattered like glass, secondary explosions tearing through its structure as stored ammunition cooked off. The Perseverance was already accelerating away when the first distress signal went out. Across Valdrin space, military commanders received reports of the attack with confusion. A human ship here? Impossible. The humans didn't even know where their territories were. It had to be some kind of mistake. Then came the second attack. A convoy of transport ships carrying replacement parts for fleet vessels simply vanished. Debris and escape pods were found later, along with sensor records showing the same massive human warship. Then a third attack. A communications relay destroyed, cutting off a dozen systems from the Imperial network. The attacks came faster, seemingly random but always devastating. The Perseverance was a ghost appearing without warning, striking with overwhelming force, then vanishing before anyone could respond. Valdrin patrol groups that went hunting for it found nothing but empty space. Warmaster Thexul had been given command of the Grand Armada with a single order from Emperor Valdris. Destroy the human ship and then burn Earth to ash. He was the Empire's greatest military mind, a strategist who had conquered 40 systems in his career. He had never lost a battle. He studied the reports of the human attacks with growing frustration. The ship was fast, far faster than anything the Valdrin had. It could outrun any pursuit, and its captain was cunning, never hitting the same type of target twice, never following a predictable pattern. They're trying to draw us out, his strategic advisor said. Spreading our forces thin while they pick us apart. Thexul nodded slowly. Then we give them what they want. Prepare a trap. The trap was set at the Proxima Relay, a critical junction point for faster-than-light travel. It was the kind of target the humans couldn't ignore. Thexul positioned his Grand Armada in hiding, ships powered down to minimal signatures, waiting in the shadow of the relay's massive structure. He didn't have to wait long. The Perseverance emerged from faster-than-light travel exactly where Thexul predicted. Captain Chen saw the trap immediately. Her sensors showed power signatures appearing all around them. Dozens of ships, then hundreds, then more than 1,000. The Grand Armada had found them. Gravity well generators activating, Commander Torres reported, his voice tight. They're boxing us in. We can't jump to faster than light. Chen's mind raced through options. They were surrounded by 2,000 warships. Running was impossible. Fighting was suicide. But surrender was not an option. All weapons fire at will. Engineering, I need everything the reactor can give me. The Perseverance became a sphere of destruction. Weapons firing in every direction. Railguns tore through Valdrin cruisers. Antimatter torpedoes vaporized destroyers. Point defense lasers created a wall of light around the ship. But there were too many enemies. Far too many. Thexul watched the human ship fight with a mixture of admiration and certainty. They were skilled, deadly, and completely trapped. His fleet surrounded them, pouring fire from every angle. The humans' shields were holding, but not forever. Victory was inevitable. Then the Perseverance did something unexpected. Instead of trying to break through the thinnest part of the encirclement, it accelerated directly toward the densest concentration of enemy ships. Straight at Thexul's command position. What are they doing? His advisor asked. Thexul suddenly understood and horror filled him. They're going to overload their reactor. Get us out of... The Perseverance's main reactor went critical in a controlled detonation. The explosion was tremendous, a sphere of plasma and radiation that vaporized everything within 10 kilometers. Hundreds of Valdrin ships simply ceased to exist. Hundreds more were crippled, their systems fried by electromagnetic pulse. And in the chaos, in the brief moment when every sensor was overwhelmed and every ship was blinded, the Perseverance did the impossible. Its emergency faster-than-light drive, designed for exactly this kind of desperate situation, tore a hole in space. The ship vanished, leaving the Grand Armada in confusion and disorder. But the escape had cost everything. The Perseverance tumbled out of faster-than-light travel 3 light-years away, its hull scarred and burned, multiple systems offline. The reactor was barely stable. Life support was running on backup power. The mighty Dreadnought was, for the moment, helpless. Captain Chen pulled herself up from where the explosion had thrown her. Around her, the bridge crew were doing the same, checking for injuries, trying to get systems back online. "Damage report," she said, tasting blood in her mouth. Torres consulted his flickering displays. "Reactor is stable but operating at 20% capacity. Main weapons are offline. Armor is breached in 14 sections. We need major repairs, Captain. Days, maybe weeks of work. How long until the Valdren find us? Unknown. We left a lot of debris and radiation behind. They might think we were destroyed, but if they realize we escaped..." He didn't need to finish. Chen looked at the navigation display, calculating distances and jump routes. "Set course for Earth, best speed we can manage. Captain, we can't fight like this. If they catch us, I know. But Earth is our only hope for repairs. And if the Valdren follow us there..." She paused, knowing what that meant. The Grand Armada, hunting them back to their homeworld. "No time to prepare defenses. No time to evacuate, then we make our stand there," she finished quietly. "Send a message ahead. Tell Earth we're coming home. Tell them to prepare for the worst." Light years away, War Master Thexul stood in what remained of his command ship, looking at casualty reports that made his blood run cold. 400 ships destroyed, 600 more damaged, all from a single enemy vessel, and the humans had escaped. His advisor approached carefully. "Sir, we have a trail." Residual faster-than-light signatures. "They're heading back toward their home system." Thexul smiled coldly. "Perfect. We'll finish this where it started. Ready the fleet. We're going to Earth." The Grand Armada, battered but still overwhelming, turned toward human space. Behind it, word of the battle was already spreading through the Empire. The humans had fought 1,500 warships and survived. Impossible. Unthinkable. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the Valdren Empire felt something it had never known. Fear. The Perseverance limped into Earth orbit 4 days later. Every remaining defense platform had been rebuilt. Every warship humanity could build was waiting. But everyone knew it wouldn't be enough. Admiral Webb watched the damaged Dreadnought dock with the orbital shipyard and felt his heart sink. The ship's hull was scarred with weapon impacts. Entire sections were blackened from explosions. The mighty vessel that had saved Earth looked like it had gone through hell. Captain Chen met with Earth's military leadership in person. She looked exhausted, her uniform torn, a bandage on her forehead, but her eyes were still sharp. "How long to repair the Perseverance?" Webb asked. 3 weeks minimum, Chen answered. "That's pushing our repair crews to the limit. 4 weeks to be combat ready. We have 5 days, maybe 6. The room went silent. Finally, someone spoke. "General Martinez of the United Earth Ground Forces. Then we fight with what we have. Every ship, every platform, every weapon we can put in orbit." "They'll have over 1,000 ships," Chen said quietly. "Even damaged, the Grand Armada outguns us by orders of magnitude." "Then what do you suggest? Surrender?" Chen looked around the room, seeing the fear and determination on every face. These were soldiers and leaders who had never expected to face extinction. But now that it was here, they were ready to fight anyway. "No," she said. "We fight. But not the way they expect. We make them pay for every meter of space. We turn our entire civilization into a weapon." Over the next 4 days, humanity transformed itself. Every commercial ship was armed with nuclear weapons. Every satellite became a potential missile. Volunteers signed up by the millions, willing to pilot converted freighters on suicide runs if it meant buying Earth a few more minutes. Engineers worked around the clock, not just repairing the Perseverance, but implementing one final secret: the quantum destabilization network, a system that had been installed across key points in Valdren space during the Perseverance's raids. Small devices easily hidden, capable of creating localized disruptions in space-time. They were useless as weapons, barely able to affect a ship, but they had another purpose. Commander Torres oversaw the Perseverance's repairs personally. Crews welded new armor plates. Technicians rebuilt weapon systems. The engineering team performed miracles, coaxing the damaged reactor back to 70% capacity. It wasn't perfect, but it would have to do. On the third day, Torres found Captain Chen in her quarters, staring at pictures on her personal display. Images of Earth, cities and oceans and forests. "Will we win?" he asked quietly. Chen didn't look away from the images. "Honestly? Probably not. But we'll make them remember us. That's enough, is it?" She finally turned to face him. "My grandmother was one of the original crew. She spent 40 years maintaining this ship, waiting for a war she hoped would never come. My mother took over after her, then me. 3 generations of our family, preparing to defend people we'd never meet, preparing to die if necessary. So yes, it's enough, because humans don't surrender. We fight until there's nothing left to fight with." Torres nodded slowly. "The crew wants you to know, Captain. Whatever happens, we're with you." "I know. That's what makes us dangerous." The Grand Armada arrived on the 5th day. War Master Thexul brought 1,400 ships, all that remained combat-capable after the Proxima relay disaster. It was still more than enough. He looked at Earth on his displays, a beautiful blue world that had caused him more trouble than entire sectors. He would enjoy watching it burn. "All ships attack formation. Begin orbital bombardment on my—" His sensors officer interrupted. "Sir, detecting multiple launches from the planet and orbital stations. Hundreds of contacts, no, thousands. Just missiles. Our point defense will handle them. Continue as planned." But they weren't just missiles. They were cargo ships and passenger liners and mining vessels, all filled with weapons, all piloted by volunteers who knew they weren't coming back. They swarmed toward the Valdran fleet like angry insects, too many to shoot down, too determined to stop. The first wave hit the Valdran vanguard. Ships rammed into cruisers, their nuclear weapons detonating on contact. Valdran shields held against 1 or 2, but not against dozens. Capital ships reeled under the unexpected assault. Thexul watched in disbelief as a human cargo hauler, its hull already burning, crashed directly into a destroyer's bridge. Both vessels exploded in a ball of fire. "What are they doing? They're killing themselves." His advisor understood. "They're buying time, sir." For their Dreadnought. The Perseverance launched from the orbital shipyard, still not fully repaired but operational. Captain Chen sat in her command chair, watching the chaotic battle unfold around Earth. Hundreds of civilian ships were dying to hold the Valdran fleet at bay. She wouldn't waste their sacrifice. All weapons target their command ships. Helm full attack speed. "We're going right down their throat." The Dreadnought accelerated into the battle. Its railguns opened fire, each shot precisely aimed at Valdran flagships. Its antimatter torpedoes streaked through space, detonating among the enemy's capital vessels. The Perseverance was wounded, diminished, but still the most powerful warship in the system. The Valdran fleet tried to concentrate fire on it, but the swarm of human civilian ships made that impossible. Every time they focused on the Dreadnought, a dozen more suicide ships would ram into their flanks. Earth's defense platforms, positioned in carefully planned crossfire zones, added their firepower to the chaos. Thexul realized he was losing. Not militarily, he still had superior numbers and firepower, but strategically, every minute he stayed here, more of his ships died to these insane human tactics. And for what? To conquer a species that would clearly fight to the last person, sir, detecting energy buildup from the planet's surface. Multiple locations. What kind of energy? Unknown, sir. It's not a weapon signature, it's some kind of quantum field generators. The quantum destabilization network activated. Not in Valdran space, not yet. First on Earth itself as a demonstration. Space around the planet rippled visibly, a phenomenon that sensors struggled to interpret. Captain Chen opened a channel, broadcasting to every Valdran ship. War Master Thexul, I'm sending you tactical data from your supply routes. Check your own sensors for the locations. Across Valdran space, hundreds of similar energy signatures appeared. The hidden devices placed during months of raids all activating simultaneously. Chen's voice was calm, almost conversational. We've installed quantum destabilization devices throughout your empire. They're not weapons. They can't hurt your ships, but they can do something much worse. She paused, letting him absorb that. They can broadcast. Every world in your empire is about to receive a message. They're going to see this battle. They're going to see how we fight. And they're going to see you lose. Thexul stared at his displays as the transmission began. Images of the battle at Earth, broadcast across every Valdran world. Images of the Proxima Relay disaster. Images of humanity's Dreadnought tearing through Imperial fleets. And over it all, a simple message: we are one world. We built one ship. Imagine what 100 worlds could build. We didn't start this war, but we will end it. Leave us alone or we will burn your entire empire to ash. You have one chance. The message included coordinates to Neptune's orbit, where the construction facilities were located. Facilities that showed framework for 6 more Dreadnought-class vessels in various stages of completion. It was a bluff. Those ships wouldn't be ready for decades. But the Valdran didn't know that. More importantly, the transmission reached the thousands of conquered species in the Valdran Empire. Species that had been told resistance was hopeless. They watched humanity fight impossible odds and refused to surrender, and they began to rebel. Thexul received reports from across the Empire. Uprisings on 17 worlds, military mutinies, supply chains collapsing as conquered species sabotaged their own infrastructure rather than support the war. The Empire was tearing itself apart. Emperor Valdris himself appeared on the communication channel, his face tight with barely controlled rage. "War Master, withdraw your forces immediately." "But my Emperor, we can still. Our empire is collapsing into civil war. You will return at once and help restore order." The Grand Armada began to withdraw, its ships breaking off from the battle and activating faster than light drives. They left behind debris and bodies and the knowledge that they had lost. Captain Chen watched them go from the damaged bridge of the Perseverance. Around Earth, the surviving civilian ships stopped their attacks, drifting in space, their volunteer crews unable to believe they were still alive. Admiral Webb's voice came through. "Captain Chen, they're offering a ceasefire. Full recognition of human sovereignty. They want to negotiate." Chen leaned back in her chair, every muscle aching. "Tell them we'll talk. But we talk as equals, and we keep building our ships." "Understood, Captain. You did it. You saved us all." Chen looked out at Earth, battered but whole, surrounded by the wreckage of the greatest battle in human history. "No," she said softly. "We all did it together. That's the human way." 5 years passed. The Perseverance hung in orbit above Earth, fully repaired and upgraded with new technology. Its scarred hull had been replaced with fresh armor. Its weapons had been enhanced. But the real changes were happening around it. Earth's orbital space was crowded now. 36 defensive platforms, each more powerful than the old ones. 20 military vessels of advanced design, incorporating lessons learned from the war. And in the distance at the Neptune construction yards, the second Dreadnought was nearing completion. Captain Sarah Chen, now promoted to Admiral, stood on the observation deck of the orbital command station. She was older, with touches of gray in her hair, but her eyes held the same determination they always had. Admiral Marcus Webb, also older and preparing for retirement, joined her at the window. They watched the construction yards in comfortable silence, 2 warriors who had seen the worst and survived. "Hard to believe it's been 5 years, Webb said finally. Chen nodded. "Sometimes it feels like yesterday, sometimes like a lifetime ago." The peace treaty with the Valdran Empire had been signed 2 years after the battle. It wasn't so much a treaty as a mutual agreement to leave each other alone. The Empire was too busy dealing with rebellions and civil wars to threaten Earth, and humanity was too busy preparing for the next threat, because both sides knew the truth. The Valdran weren't the only empire out there. They weren't even the largest. The galaxy was full of dangers, and Earth had barely survived its first encounter. "How's the diplomatic mission going?" Webb asked. "Better than expected. 17 former Valdran colonies have signed mutual defense pacts with us. We're teaching them how to build their own defensive fleets. Nothing as powerful as the Perseverance, but enough to deter raiders and pirates. It had been Chen's idea. Rather than trying to build a human empire, Earth would create an alliance of free worlds. Species that had been conquered by the Valdran were now discovering freedom, and humanity was helping them keep it. Not out of altruism, though that played a part, but because a galaxy full of strong independent worlds was far safer than one dominated by empires. The Valdran High Command isn't happy about it, Webb observed. Chen smiled. The Valdren High Command can file a complaint. We'll get back to them in 6 to 8 business weeks. Webb laughed. It was good to hear him laugh. The war had aged everyone, but they had survived. Humanity had survived. A message came through on Chen's communicator. She read it, and her expression became thoughtful. "What is it?" Webb asked. "Emperor Valdris died yesterday. Natural causes, apparently. His successor is someone named Kexval. Young, relatively moderate. He's requesting a formal diplomatic meeting. Do you trust him?" "No, but I'm willing to talk." That's more than his predecessor ever offered. The galaxy was changing. The Valdren Empire was shrinking, losing systems every month to independence movements. Other empires were watching humanity with a mixture of curiosity and concern. A species that had gone from barely knowing aliens existed to defeating an imperial armada in a matter of months. Some saw potential allies. Others saw a future threat. Chen didn't care about their opinions. She cared about making sure Earth was never caught unprepared again. "I'm heading down to the academy," she said. "Guest lecture for the new graduates. Give them hell, Admiral." The United Earth Space Force Academy was located in Switzerland, built on the site of what used to be the United Nations headquarters. It was fitting, Chen thought. The old world of nations had given way to a unified Earth, born in the fires of near extinction. The graduating class of 2187 stood at attention as she entered the auditorium. 500 young men and women from every part of Earth, trained in the new realities of space warfare. They would crew the new ships being built, establish outposts in distant systems, and serve as humanity's shield against the unknown. Chen took the podium and looked out at the young faces. She remembered being their age, taking command of the Perseverance, carrying the weight of Earth's survival on her shoulders. These officers would carry their own burdens soon enough. "At ease," she said. The class sat and Chen began to speak. 5 years ago, humanity faced extinction. The Valdren Empire sent 300 warships to conquer or destroy us. We had never fought a space battle before. We didn't know if we could survive. But we did, because of one simple truth. She paused, letting the silence stretch. We refused to give up. When they destroyed Luna Base, we didn't surrender. When they surrounded our only Dreadnought, we fought our way out. When they chased us home, we turned our entire civilization into a weapon. We won because we were too stubborn to lose. A few smiles appeared in the audience. They had all heard the stories, but hearing them from someone who was there made them real. "But I'm not here to talk about the past," Chen continued. "I'm here to talk about your future. You're going out into a galaxy that doesn't care about us, a galaxy full of empires and dangers we haven't even discovered yet. You'll face situations where surrender seems like the only option, where the odds are impossible, where logic says you can't win." She let that sink in, then smiled. "And you'll win anyway, because you're human. Because we don't know how to quit. That's not tactics or training. That's who we are. That's what makes us dangerous." Chen gestured to the window where Earth hung blue and beautiful against the stars. "Other species see us as lucky. They think we won because we happen to have one big ship. They don't understand. We won because every human, from the civilian pilots who rammed their ships into enemy cruisers to the engineers who kept our weapons firing, understood one thing. We would rather die on our feet than live on our knees." The auditorium was completely silent now. "You're going to carry that legacy forward. Some of you will command ships. Some will explore new systems. Some will negotiate with alien governments. But all of you will represent humanity to the galaxy. And when they ask what makes humans special, you tell them this." Chen's voice became steel. "We're not the strongest. We're not the smartest. We're not the most advanced. But we are the most determined. We are the species that looked at an empire that had conquered 10,000 worlds and said no. We are the species that turned a single warship into a legend. We are the species that refused to die." She looked across the rows of young faces, seeing the fire in their eyes. 5 years ago, the Valdren Empire learned what happens when you threaten humanity. In the years to come, the entire galaxy will learn the same lesson. We are here. We are strong, and we are not going anywhere. Chen stepped back from the podium. "Congratulations on your graduation. Now go show the universe what humans can do." The auditorium erupted in applause. Chen walked off the stage feeling the weight of years and battles, but also feeling hope. These young officers would carry humanity forward. They would make mistakes and learn from them. They would face challenges she couldn't imagine. But they would survive, because that's what humans did. Later that evening, Chen returned to the Perseverance. The ship felt like home now, more than any planet could. She walked through its corridors past crew members who nodded respectfully. She made her way to the bridge and sat in the command chair one last time. Commander Torres, now Captain Torres of his own vessel, had left a message for her. A simple note thanking her for everything she had taught him. Chen smiled and deleted it. No need for sentimentality. She looked out at the stars through the bridge view screen. Somewhere out there were empires and aliens and threats humanity hadn't discovered yet, but also opportunities. Allies. Wonders beyond imagining. The galaxy had tried to destroy humanity and failed. Now humanity would show the galaxy what it meant to refuse extinction. Chen activated the ship-wide communication system. Her crew deserved to hear this directly. All hands, this is Admiral Chen. As of tomorrow, I'm retiring from active command. Captain Morrison will take over the Perseverance. I know you'll serve her as well as you served me. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. We built this ship in secret, hoping we'd never need it. Then we needed it and it saved us all. But the Perseverance was never just a ship. It was a promise that humanity would never be helpless again, that we would stand and fight no matter the odds. Chen looked around the bridge at the stations where her crew had fought and bled and won impossible victories. We kept that promise, and now a new generation will carry it forward. The galaxy tried to break us. Instead, we broke their empire and made them respect us. Not bad for one ship and a bunch of stubborn humans. She smiled. It's been an honor serving with you all. Now go show the universe what the UNSC Perseverance can do. The communication ended. Chen sat in the command chair for a few more minutes, remembering the battles, the victories, the friends lost along the way. Then she stood, saluted the empty bridge, and walked away. Behind her, the Perseverance waited. Not retired, not obsolete, but ready. Because there would always be threats. There would always be empires that thought humanity was weak. And there would always be a Dreadnought hanging in the darkness waiting to teach them otherwise. The message had been sent 5 years ago, broadcast across 1,000 worlds. But it bore repeating. The Empire sent their Armadas, and humanity's Dreadnought descended. The galaxy would never forget.